Warning: video contains talk of suicide and death. Summer Ghost is a very interesting movie. It poses truths of life that cannot be overcome, yet at the same time the film tells you to disregard it anyway. Death is a certainty no matter what, but the movie does not tell you to wait for it. Instead it tells you to live despite that inevitability. This is what I like about this movie. It truly is art because the story is so free to express these emotions. Its pacing allows everything to be told without getting in the way of the narrative. As the audience, we don't actually need too much to understand what is happening. It only takes 3 minutes to get the full premise. Three characters who met online want to meet a ghost that shows up when there are fireworks. Then, throughout the rest of the movie, we find out more about these characters and how they ended up searching for the ghost. The fireworks are already a metaphor for life. I love that we get to see a close-up of the fireworks blazing. It is a beautiful visual. The visual gets to sink in. The movie's pacing is great at establishing things quickly, but it isn't necessarily fast either, as it allows for these visuals to stay on screen, letting our minds see and think about them and the movie. Fireworks burn bright and are exciting, fun, and potentially dangerous, but they burn out quickly. When seen like that, they are a lot like life itself. All of the characters in this film are reckoning with death. Aoi attempted suicide, and Tomoya thinks of it. Meanwhile, Ryo isn't suicidal, but he is sick and will die. This creates an interesting dynamic. For Tomoya, life was something that was burdensome, and he didn't find joy in it. Thinking of death was thinking of an escape, but he has control over that. He still has many years left ahead of him if he so chooses. Meanwhile, Ryoi doesn't get that, and he even says to Tomoya that he hates people like him who think they have it the worst. Ryoi has to confront death head on. It breaks him, as he will not be able to partake in those small things that make up life, like witnessing the cherry blossoms in spring. To him, Tomoya should be grateful to have a future. In Tomoya's life, though, he feels trapped. What future can exist for him anyway? He isn't doing what he wants. His mother wants him to go to cram school and to pass his exams. Tomoya is capable of doing these things, but it is suffering to him. He loves art, he sees feelings as an important thing, and he wants to express himself through it, but he is stopped from doing so. Aoi, too, has to live with constant bullying, and she tells Ryoi that she doesn't see it as bad as his situation, and that she may have no room to speak, but there are hardships in everyone's life. I appreciate the movie for showing the point of view of Tomoya and Aoi as well. Suicide is a real issue, and Aoi can't solve the problems that pushed her there. She is still bullied and alone at her school. Bullying is already bad as it is, but to continue to bully someone knowing they have attempted suicide is even worse. Don't do that. Anyway, she makes connections with Tomoya and Ryo. These connections give her something she needed, people to be around. Loneliness is crushing. It doesn't feel good. It is easier to get through life with other people. These characters find the will to live again, and it is beautiful. Ryo believes he should be alone, because he only has so little time left. But the movie goes the opposite direction. It tells us that no, he doesn't become undeserving of friends just because he is going to die soon. The truth of life is that there are many hardships to live through, and life itself is fragile and can vanish easily. Good times always end, but so do bad times. Tomoya develops a relationship with Ayane, the summer ghost. Tomoya becomes interested in the idea of being a ghost, since a ghost is no longer burdened by life's issues. In life, he cannot enjoy art. He is always taken away from it. But as a ghost, he can freely enjoy anything. But he cannot create anything new either. And as a ghost, the connections to the living become severely limited. Tomoya can become content as a ghost, yet he chooses not to anyway. He sees himself as trying to come up with reasons not to live. Ryoi and Aoi want him to live, and in the end he decides he will live, that he will suffer through the burdens of life. But he changes his perspective. Now he decides he will no longer be afraid to go through life because he knows how life is short. He paints anyway. This movie doesn't give answers to questions like why we were born. Instead, it just tells us to live. These characters live even at the worst times. They grieve the deaths of their friends, and they witness the cherry blossoms, and they walk home. This movie fully admits life is painful and that death can be painful as well. The death of other people is painful, yet throughout all of that, we should still live. We cry because life is important. These characters find this will to live, but it isn't through the same reasoning they give for dying. There's joy to go against the pain in life, but these characters don't live purely for their own joy. There's a feeling of wanting to live that isn't so easy to put into words, and for a movie to capture that is beautiful. There's a lot to being alive. Ayane and Tomoya disagree. It is interesting because Ayane as the ghost would rather be alive, while Tomoya as the living person would rather be a ghost. Tomoya confronting another perspective was enough to make him think differently about life. I like the relationship between the characters and the ghost, and how over time they begin to care a lot for each other and want to find peace. This movie is powerful because it is a mature and in-depth look into life, pleasant and not pleasant, and yet when it shows you all the horrible things life can offer, the message is to live anyway, to spend time with your friends to get through the pain. Combine that with the beautiful animation and the soundtrack, it is quite worth the watch, especially since it is only 40 minutes long. Well, that's all I got for today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.